You just like go deep into
Why
depression.
the hell do you think I set up a show called We're Not Kidding? Because I realize that about myself.
But
and I need people like yourself
it's more
and Rob
about your
Delaney
depression
and others. I need you. Okay, let's talk about this depressing world. You can satirize the craziness in the Middle East. Bassem, since we launched the show, you and I have been talking about the craziness in the Middle East, specifically Gaza. We talked about red heifers. We've talked about Netanyahu in other contexts. We've talked about crazy people in the region. Here we are, a year after October 7th, 6 months into you and I having these chats, and we're not talking about Gaza now, we're talking about Lebanon. What is happening to Lebanon is insane. I don't think anyone imagined, I think the people of Lebanon imagined that we would be in this situation where, having pounded Gaza, genocided Gaza, we're now in Lebanon with 1 million people displaced. A beautiful country. I'm assuming I haven't been for many years to Lebanon. Have you been to Lebanon recently?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Zees Political Arrow. My name's Z, your semi-host and your compass in a world that feels more like an uncharted swamp of despair. Today, we're diving headfirst into the absurd, heart-wrenching, and maddeningly cynical realities of the Middle East, where every international law seems written in disappearing ink. Our guides on this treacherous journey, the sharp-tongued Mehdi Hassan and the irrepressible Bassem Youssef. Together, they'll unpack the tragedy and downright insanity of the world's longest-running geopolitical soap opera, Israel versus everyone else. If you thought last year couldn't get darker, hold on, because we're not just going into hell, we're touring the whole underworld with a satirical flashlight. Let's go.
Yes, I've been in Lebanon. Last time I was in Lebanon 3 years ago. So, and I've always had friends there. I've visited. I've been on their TV many times. But the thing is, like, I don't see the surprise. I don't see the astonishment. I mean, Israel has proved for a whole year that they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
I mean, nobody has imagined that what happened in Gaza, what happened on daily day in the West Bank, what happens in southern Lebanon, what happens in Lebanon. I mean, like, it could be, we can have a podcast a year from now talking about, oh my God, do you see what happened in Syria? Have you imagined? I mean, they are telling us in every step of the way, we want a Jewish state in Lebanon and in Jordan and in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And it's not him. Because the Western media will try to frame this as, oh, he's just like one of the radicals, fringe extremist. They've been telling you, and I've been doing it to you, and they will always find the Western media finding an excuse. But they're terrorism. But it's
Hezbollah. After hearing about Hamas, it's now Hezbollah. All the same stuff.
I'm starting to believe it. Maybe it is. I mean, maybe we should give Israel this kind of carte blanche to do whatever they want, because, like,
they have it.
They have. I mean, and it doesn't matter.
It's the same, but it's so lazy. It's the same playbook. They're hiding under buildings. There's Hezbollah, human shields. They put rockets in apartments. This is the same narrative.
It's not lazy if it's working.
That's true.
And also the fact that Netanyahu can go on stage and in the UN say, like, every kitchen have a rocket launcher. I mean, and people just don't even stop about that. It is useless. It's a charade. It's a charade. It's just like, yes, we have free speech. You can come on our shows and you can bark all you want and talk about the humans being killed. And we are going to pretend that we are listening to you, and we're just going to do that. We are the free world. We're allowing you to say exactly. You're free to say what you want, but
we're free to do what we want.
Kill what you want, which is exactly what the regimes in the Middle East has always doing. Yes, you're free to say what you want, not in our presence, and we're free to say and do and what you want. So really, America is not that very different.
Well, Israel is a very Middle Eastern regime.
No, but it's Israel could have never done that without America.
Of course.
And I think whatever you want to talk about, the American elections, the pagers, the Hezbollah, the Lebanon, the Gaza, we cannot really pretend that this is just happening and America is not on that.
Agreed.
And that they're talking about Iran proxies.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about American proxy.
Yes.
That's so true.
We're talking about the Western, and as if Europeans are not to be blamed because they have been helping Israel with the intelligence they've been helping. So I don't know that.
Let's just, hold on. Before we generalize about Europeans, can we take a pause for the Irish? Last time we spoke, you and I, you had been to Ireland. You said, I think you said Irish with the Palestinians of Europe.
I had the craziest energy in my shows in Ireland. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. One of the best ones I've ever had.
We're speaking right now, more news is coming out about Irish peacekeepers being injured, Irish peacekeepers being attacked. This is part of the UNIFIL, a UN contingent of Irish peacekeepers in southern Lebanon who have been attacked by an Israeli tank, which turns up, targets them. These Irish government has said this is outrageous. The EU has said it's outrageous, but they're doing it.
Doesn't matter. I mean, they just bombed French oil refinery just because Macron said, I'm not going to give you weapons anymore. So it's just like basically it's a bulldog that America is setting free on the region. And it just...
I mean, they must have taken some pleasure in targeting the Irish, because that is one country in Europe that has stood up to them.
Yeah. And the French. And and tomorrow it's the Americans. It's not like... I want to actually ask you about something, because one of the narrative, there's always like, there is American blood on Hezbollah and Iran, right? And they always like to quote the 241 soldiers that were killed in the embassy, right?
The Marine Barracks.
The Marine barracks, right? But here's my question. I'm sure that you're aware of that book, By Way of Deception, by Victor Ostrovsky.
I'm not.
Okay, so Victor Ostrovsky, he was an ex-Mossad, and his book was published in 1991. And he was a Mossad officer, and he talks very, very, very openly about how Israel had absolute information about the Mercedes truck that drove into the Marine Corps. And it did not relate to the Americans. And the head of the Mossad, Shin Bet, at the time, he said, like, they are a big country and shouldn't have involved themselves in what they shouldn't be. And this book, there was a gag order by the Israeli government on it not to be released in 1991. Now, here's the thing. If you go to Wikipedia, you will see a very, very, very heavily edited pages about Victor Ostrovsky being deranged, never been in the Mossad, never been. And of course, we have videos for Naftali Bennett when he was working with the Wikipedia editors in Israel, saying that we want to equip Wikipedia to be as fair and as Zionist as possible.
Moetzet Yesha, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged an instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
Well, Wikipedia has become a ground for all sorts of political battles, including Middle East battles.
I'm just saying that the people in the West are very, very, very interested in talking about the blood of American soldiers, but they never talk about the blood of American soldiers on Israeli hands. Whether it was
USS Liberty is a very famous example.
USS Liberty,
in the 1967
whether the Lavon affair that happened in Egypt in 1954, I'm sure that you're aware of it, where Israel has denied it for 51 years and then sent them certificate appreciation.
We don't need to go back to the 50s or 60s, Bassem. They're killing Americans in the West Bank.
Yeah.
They killed an American Turkish
No, but they're
citizen in the West
Palestinians, they
Bank.
don't count.
Well, this was a Turkish American. It's even less, yeah.
They don't count.
They don't count.
They don't count.
Well, Rachel Corrie was a white American woman.
She's
lefty peace.
She's a useful fool.
Yeah,
as Ben Shapiro would say.
I mean, there's multiple Americans have now been killed. They had an American citizen from Michigan killed in Lebanon.
There's a bigger issue and a bigger picture here. American lives lost because of Israel's action, from the USS Liberty attack in 1967 to Rachel Corrie crushed under a bulldozer, or the American killed in Lebanon recently. These deaths are either dismissed, ignored, or reframed. Even the State Department downplayed the citizenship of the man killed in Lebanon, choosing bureaucracy over truth. When American lives are taken elsewhere, outrage is swift. But when Israel is involved, it's silence or spin. Why? Why is one ally exempt from accountability? We owe it to these lives to demand the same standards from all nations. Justice isn't negotiable, and truth isn't subjective. Let's start holding everyone accountable. No exceptions.
And the reaction of the State Department, I don't know if you saw, they said, well, he's not an American, he's a permanent resident. Which A, wasn't true, he was a citizen. And B, even if he was a permanent resident, is that okay for our permanent residents? I remember I was getting very angry at Saudi Arabia for killing Jamal Khashoggi, who was an American citizen, but he was a permanent resident. He was a resident in Virginia. So yeah, you're right. We don't talk enough about that. It's interesting you brought up Lebanon 83 and 82 in the Marine barracks. For me, Lebanon in the early 80s is an absolute analogy. You said you saw me go on Piers Morgan. One of the points I made on Piers Morgan was about the 1982 war, which created Hezbollah. But what's interesting is Ronald Reagan was president in the early 80s, Bassem. Ronald, hero of the conservatives, was patriotic president, Rambo movies. Ronald Reagan pulled out of Lebanon, said, we're out of here. This is not our war, when people died. There was a lot of pressure for him to stay. He said, we're leaving. See you later. Not only did he leave, when Begin was Israeli prime minister bombing Beirut, he rang him and said, Menachem, this is a Holocaust, H word. He said, this is a Holocaust. Can you imagine an American leader today accusing Netanyahu of a Holocaust? It would be the biggest, people would lose their minds. He rang him up, he said, it was a Holocaust, you need to stop this, And in 20 minutes, the Prime Minister of Israel stopped the bombing of Beirut. Joe Biden, and this was one of the great stains on his record forever, refused to do that for a year.
So what happened? What changed? I mean, what happened since 1980s to now?
It's a great question.
And I think it is the cancerous growth of AIPAC and the other
Certainly
pro-Israeli lobbies.
views that were more mainstream in the early 80s, 70s, 60s, I think are now become taboo. Things that Ronald Reagan could say, Joe Biden can't say.
Yeah, but
And it's a weird disconnect because actually the public and young people have become more critical of Israel, but the political class
it doesn't
has
matter.
become more pro-Israel.
But it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because those politicians don't get their campaigns funded by the public. They don't get funded by the college protesters.
Yeah.
They are not important.
It's
Their
military
loyalty
contractors,
to the
pro-Israel
military,
groups, Christian
pharmaceutical,
evangelicals, yeah.
Christian evangelical, and Israel. And the fact, if you have something like AIPAC that funds 80% of Congress, but what does that tell you? It tells you that our American government is not for the American people. And this is why I have maybe a disagreement with your position.
okay. What's my position?
And I don't want to be assuming, but I know that you got a lot of heat
Good.
for supporting Harris, or at least wanting to
Stop Trump.
stop
My
Trump.
position is stop Trump.
Stop Trump, and
Who's
for
a big,
you, stop
who's a
Trump.
big character in your show today, I know.
And for me, like when people tell me Harris or Biden, I said Harris or Trump. At the beginning, I said like I want Biden to lose, and
I discussed it earlier.
and then I say it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And I'm really I came to America a few years ago, and I became a citizen in 2019. And the first thing I did, they gave me this form to register as a voter, and I was very excited. I voted in the local elections in my city. I voted the congressman. Then I say like, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter, and I understand why people were disenfranchised
Yeah.
in the Middle East, because they know that my vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter, because our tax money is being given to finance a war that we didn't vote for,
Yeah.
because those politicians are being funded by people we didn't approve. You have Republicans and Democrats fighting tooth and nail on abortion, gun rights, climate change,
But not on this
education,
issue.
healthcare, but 100
Did you-
to 0.
Did you ever see the clip of Nancy Pelosi where I think we can play it? She says, she's with Chuck Schumer, and she said, if Congress burned to the ground, the only one issue we'd still agree on is Israel. Her words.
I have said to people when they ask me if this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel.
So if that is the truth, so we need to really reconsider and recalibrate the country that we're living in. This illusion of free speech is not. When, yes, you are allowed to say what you want, but you will have pro-Israel billionaires going out of their way to destroy your career in your college if you speak up.
Bill Ackman.
Yeah.
And now Elon Musk has joined.
Yeah,
them.
yeah. So the thing is, all of this thing of like, this is a charade.
Did you see what, I got to bring this up because you just mentioned it. Just before I came here, I saw Bill Ackman went after the Weather Channel. I don't know if you saw this. So the Weather Channel had an ad on the subway of a young Arab woman wearing a kufiya. And he said, this is anti-Semitic. And the Weather Channel did a groveling apology on Twitter saying, we're very sorry. We didn't mean to be anti-Semitic or offensive. So now just expressing your Arabness or your Palestinianness through dress in the land of free speech is deemed anti-Semitic. And you have billionaires pressuring private corporations to come out and give apologies on this.
And you will have that being written in the law, the anti-Semitic bill that didn't pass the Senate, but it didn't pass today. It might pass tomorrow. It may be criticizing Israel will be anti-Semitic.
So let me push
Maybe
back.
talking about
so let me
AIPAC.
push back on you 1 second here.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I'm cynical. I'm not as cynical as you. I'll tell you why. There are 100 members of Congress who have called for a ceasefire in Gaza. 100, I think 75 to 100, ballpark. How many of them are Republicans?
I don't think anyone.
0.
Yeah.
So I don't think so there are actually people still trying to do some good. We can argue how much good that is. There's gradations. What I would say is, I don't want to end up as a, this is my personal view, where we're so nihilistic, where we say, plague on all of them, they're all bad, stay at home, don't bother to be politically engaged. When actually I look at Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush, $23 million AIPAC spent to defeat these two members of Congress in Missouri and New York, right? Two black Christians, they're not Arabs, they're not Muslims, basically sacrificed their political careers to stand up for the people of Gaza in this historic year. They were on the right side of history. AIPAC and others helped take them down. I think people like that deserve our support. I don't think we should just say plague on all your houses. Do you disagree?
No. Listen. What you're doing, I know that you have a great point in doing it. I'm not disagreeing with you as like I'm opposing your opinion.
Well, forget my opinion. I'm just saying, are you saying plague on everyone?
No. I'm just saying that maybe I don't have your tenacity and your perseverance in order to. Maybe because I come from a very long history of being disenfranchised by democracy.
And being gaslit.
And gaslit, and I come here, it's like, I found it, and then maybe I don't find it in me anymore.
You disappointed?
Yes. So, yeah, maybe you have more, like, actually, I condone you. Is that the word? Like, I appreciate you.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you still having hope to do it. Maybe I'm talking from
Have you given up hope?
No, I'm not giving up. I'm from a very, very, very deep point of desperation.
So here we are, in the so-called land of free speech, where even wearing your cultural identity, expressing your Arabness or Palestinian roots can get you labeled anti-Semitic, billionaires pressuring corporations to issue apologies, laws on the horizon that might one day equate criticism of Israel's with anti-Semitism. The irony is almost too heavy to bear, but let me say this. Despite all the disillusionment, despite the gaslighting, there are people fighting the good fight. Over 100 members of Congress have called out for a ceasefire in Gaza. None of them are Republicans, but let's give credit where it's due. People like Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman stood up for Gaza, knowing the consequences. AIPAC threw millions at them. Yes, they lost, but they stood on the right side of history, sacrificing their political career for justice. That's courage. Now I get it. The disenfranchisement is real. Democracy feels like a mirage, something you chase but never quite reach. The frustration, the exhaustion, the disappointment, it's all valid. But does that mean we give up? Does it mean we let the system grind us into apathy? Hope doesn't come easy. It's a fight. Some of us hold on to it like a torch in the dark, while others carry the weight of deep desperation. And that's okay, because even desperation is a kind of hope. It's the proof that we care enough to feel, whether you're cynical or optimistic. The point is to stay engaged, even if it's just to speak out, to share a truth, to remind people that the fight for justice isn't over, no matter how heavy it feels. If you're tired of the mainstream media gymnastics, and by gymnastics I mean bending over backwards for billionaires, then don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone who needs a reality check. My name's Z, and remember, satire isn't just about jokes, it's about survival. So until next time, keep questioning, keep laughing, and for the love of God, keep your scarves safe. From Bill Ackman. See you soon.